Welcome back to House of Hollingsworth. I wasn't planning on making a YouTube video for this particular flip I'm doing, but things have evolved. So I thought, why not? Okay, let me tell you where I'm up to. I have this single sweet little mid-century style bedside cabinet, and I had planned on stripping it and leaving it a wood look, but in a light coloured wood look. But when I tried stripping and sanding, it was almost impossible. I tried to then layer a stain over this hot mess and it just looked gross. So we're stopping here and pivoting. So I wasn't planning on painting that mid-century side table, but now I am, because it's not worth the time and effort it'll take me to strip it. If it's stripped easily, I would absolutely have kept that a wood look, but it's really hard, and I will probably end up selling this for $250. So I don't want to spend a week on it. I want to spend closer to a day on it. So I'm going to paint it. But the one thing that did strip easily was the handle, the little bamboo handle. So I'm going to end up painting this, but keeping the handles the bamboo wood look. So since I'm going to be prepping, so scuff sanding, priming and painting this one, I also have another single bedside table in my stash. So I'm going to do both of those at the same time, even though they're not matching, and I will paint them the same color just to make it super quick and easy. So this is the other bedside table. It's lovely, but this sort of very country rustic pine color doesn't do well for me, so I'm just going to paint it. Now, you can definitely sell two bedside tables that aren't a perfect identical pair. You can sell them as a pair by choosing two tables that are the same height, the same style, and you've painted the same color. I think that that's the easiest way to sell two mismatched tables as a pair. But even though I will be painting these two the same color, you can tell that there's a big height difference, and also that's mid-century. This is whatever this is. They're not the same. They're not the same style. They're not the same period or era, and so they're always going to look mismatched, even though they will end up being the same color. So I'm just going to sell them separately. I always number the backs of the drawers as I take them out. Just grab a pencil and write 1, 2, 3 or top, middle, bottom, whatever works for you. Not all drawers are created equal. So if you number them, it will take all the guesswork out of putting them back in, especially if they're slightly different in size. And then these handles were nailed on, so I just pulled the nails out from the back and I'll patch the little holes later. Next up is washing. It's good practice to wash the furniture thoroughly before you sand. Use any degreasing soap such as dish liquid or sugar soap and scrub every surface inside and out. Cleaning removes grease and grime and dust and smells, and it also means your sanding pads won't clog up as quickly. Okay, we're up to scuff sanding. You can use an orbital sander to scuff sand, but I like to use a sanding sponge. I just think it's quicker and easier, and it doesn't make hardly any noise. Also, I like to scuff sand with 120 or 180 grit, but find out what works for you. Anything coarser than 120 grit is definitely going to leave scratches. So 120 is the coarsest grit you can get away with to scuff sand. Even scuff sanding by hand produces dust. So don't be a moron like me and forget to put your dust mask on. Okay, so both of these have been scuff sanded and then wiped down with a damp microfiber towel, as well as the drawers. And now I'm going to set up to paint. Normally I like to paint outside just because the ventilation's better. But it's been sprinkling with rain this morning and I don't want to chance it. So I'm going to put some drop sheets down and just paint in my workshop. I'm going to be spraying both of these today. I don't always spray paint, but it is quickest and easiest for me. And sometimes I spray it with the drawers in the cavity like this, and sometimes I don't, and it just depends on the piece. So I will show you. So when the drawers are in, this is quite a solid seal. There's not a huge gap. And also, if I pull the drawer out, you can't see inside the cavity because the side of the drawer is the height of the cavity. So I don't care if a little bit of spray gets in between the drawer and the cavity because no one will ever see that. But I do care that the drawer itself has a crisp line. So I'm going to paint this probably with a brush to get a crisp line and then close it and spray the rest. And also with this one, there's a definite line where it ends and the back begins. So I'm just going to leave the back wood and I'm only going to paint the sides, the front and the top. This one, there's a slightly bigger gap here. So when I spray this, the paint will not leave a crisp line on the inside of the cavity. It'll shoot through, leaving like spatters like that. And then when I open it, there's a big gap here so that you will see that spatter mark on this piece because the side of the drawer doesn't like butt up like this. So for this one, I'm going to take the drawers out and tape them off like that, so that when I spray, I want to make sure that almost all of this is covered so that when you open the drawer, this whole piece will be painted as well, which means that then I need to tape off all of the inside of the drawer so that the sides of the drawer face get sprayed while I'm doing it. And for the back of this piece, because normally I don't paint the backs of pieces, but for this one, the side here has this bit that kind of wraps over onto the back of it, and the top curves over like this. So I could carefully tape down there and around this little bit. I could tape all that off so that this bit would get painted and this bit would get painted. But that seems like overkill to me, so I'm just going to paint all the way around it. I'm going to paint the back as well. All right, I have a feeling that this table here is going to be really, it's going to have a lot of bleed through just because of the stain that they've used. So I'm going to prime with Fresh Start because it's a water-based primer that's really good at stain blocking. Since it's water-based, it means that I can easily run it through my sprayer because I only put water-based paints through my sprayer. So yeah, I'm going to spray this on. I'll do the first coat and then I will fill in all the imperfections and then do a second coat. This is priming coat number 1. Yes, my feet get overspray on them. It washes off eventually. Since I only use water-based paints in my sprayer, it makes cleanup easy.
I wash all the separate parts in soapy water, and then I fill the canister with warm soapy water and spray it through into the garden. The entire cleanup takes about 5 minutes, and yes, I clean my sprayer after each and every use.
This table here doesn't have much bleed through after the first coat of primer. Maybe that not there, but putting the white primer on means that I can then, it highlights all the areas that need to be filled. So like this big crack here that I totally hadn't seen before, and all the nicks and dents in it will need to be filled. But the other table has massive amounts of bleed through. Look at all that pinkish red showing through. So I will fill this as well and then give it a second coat of primer, and hopefully the bleed through won't happen again. This is the one that has not been sanded or stripped. It's just been scuff sanded, and the bleed through is quite uniform. This was the one that I sanded it back as best I could, and the bleed through is really obvious here where the handle was. But yeah, even if it needs 3 coats of primer, we'll get there in the end before we start actually painting it.
I'm using Timbermate wood filler to fill any blemishes, and then I'll sand with a sanding block and wipe over to get rid of the dust. This is priming coat number 2. I had high hopes. Fresh Start Primer has never failed me. It's really good for sealing in tannins from knotty pine, so I assumed it would work on this weirdly stained timber too.
Okay, the good news is this table is looking good after 2 coats of primer and filler, except for this one little spot. I need to refill that bit, and then that's ready for paint. The bad news is after 2 coats, the bleed through is still just so significant, and in fact these drawer fronts had 3 coats of primer and are still like, this is the worst bleed through I've ever seen in my life. So I'm just going to hunt about for some shellac or some bin. Yeah, let me have a look at what else I've got. So the 2 coats, the 2 coats of stain blocking primer still are not fully blocking this dreadful bleed through. So I'm going to try putting shellac over the entire thing. You can use shellac as a primer to block stains, or you can use it as a top coat to seal timber. I'm going to put a nice heavy-handed coat on to try and get rid of this red stain that's just pouring through. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it. It's probably the worst bleed through I've ever experienced. I'm quite persistent. I'm really digging my heels in. I feel like I am going to conquer this bleed through or die trying. I cannot let this terrible stain be the best of me. I cannot let this horrible stain win. I have to conquer it.
It looks hideous, but hopefully this worked. Shellac is priming coat number 3, then I'm spray priming coat number 4 to check for bleed through.
Okay, the 3rd coat of primer over the top of the shellac is still drying, but so far I think that worked. This is discoloured because you can see the shellac through the primer, because I wasn't very careful with those bits because they will be hidden. But it's looking good. I'll know for sure once it's dried.
Now I'm spraying on 2 coats of vintage beige in a water-based enamel. This is my favourite shade of white for furniture and cabinetry. It always looks high-end. It's not a crisp Hampton-style white. It's got a lot of depth to it, without the strong yellow undertones of most antique whites.
Okay, the second coat is touch dry now, so I'm going to get the handles on, do the draw liners, and then take photos. Bummer. I got some paint bleeding under the tape. Oh, that's a good one. Well, it's very satisfying when it does that. Okay. That will do. Okay, now for these drawers, I soaked the handles in vinegar for a few minutes and they buffed up beautifully. The handles are on this one, and now I'm going to put handles on the other unit, and remember they're these wooden ones. Yeah, they're touch dry. Oh gosh, they look so sweet. Okay, let's get to staging them.
Here's a reminder of what they looked like before, and here are the afters. I'm in the process of clearing out my furniture stash before Christmas, and so while I would normally price individual bedside tables like these in the $250 to $300 range, at the moment I want really fast sales, so I've listed these at $175 each. I always offer free local delivery on any furniture I can fit in my car. I find the option of free delivery makes for a fast sale. Honestly, I think $175 for a solid timber piece of painted furniture with bespoke drawer liners and really nice handles with free delivery is an absolute bargain. So I'm hoping these get snapped up quickly. I hope you enjoyed my mismatched side table makeovers today. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.